Welcome to Sports Spectrum, the sports and faith podcast that brings Jesus back into the conversation. Here's your host, Jason Romano.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I am Jason Romano. Our guest today is Erik Kratz, longtime Major League Baseball catcher. And of course, our show is presented today by IJM, helping to protect more than 150 million people from violence worldwide, international justice mission. You can learn more about the great work they are doing by going to their website, ijm.org/TF. Join the fight to end slavery in our lifetime and look to become a freedom partner today. We are excited to welcome back Erik Kratz to the show. If you're a listener to the Sports Spectrum podcast, he was featured on the March 8th, 2019 edition of the show, and that's where we got into his journey growing up, his crazy baseball journey, and certainly his walk with Jesus and what that journey has been like spiritually for him. Erik has been through it all. When you look at his baseball career, he was selected in the 29th round of the 2002 MLB Draft. So the odds are stacked against him right there in the 29th round. 8 years later, he makes his Major League Baseball debut, July 17th, 2010, with Pittsburgh. And then he's headed over to Philadelphia. And he goes with Philadelphia, Toronto, Kansas City, back to Philadelphia, Houston, the Yankees, Milwaukee. He actually had a really good 2018 season with the Brewers, where he went 5 for 8 in the 2018 NLDS, which the Brewers won. And then the 2019 season, he finds himself starting with Milwaukee, then over to San Francisco on the West Coast with the Giants, back to Tampa with the Rays, then to the Yankees and playing in AAA with the Yankees, and then re-signing in this spring training here in late February, early March. He was with the Yankees trying to make the ball club there, having a pretty good spring. And then COVID-19 happens, the coronavirus, the pandemic, and we're all put on hold, including the world of baseball. And who knows if the baseball season will resume? We hope so, but who knows? We just have no idea. So I thought it'd be good to have Erik come back on the show and tell us what this has been like for him as a baseball player, as a husband, as a dad, and as a follower of Jesus Christ. Take a listen to Erik Kratz, MLB catcher with the New York Yankees currently, and he joins us here on Sports Spectrum, presented by IJM. Erik, welcome back.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you. This has got to be the weirdest thing that's ever happened. I mean, you've been on a weird journey, crazy journey of baseball, pro baseball. And I was thinking about this because you and I had that very long conversation a year or so ago about your journey. Is this the weirdest thing that you've seen happen, the craziest thing that you've seen happen in all your journey?
Oh, for sure. For sure. I was trying to think of like something that affected everybody, because there's always individual stuff where you're like, whoa, that was crazy. But you know, like a kid getting called up from high A for like a day to play in the big leagues and then sent back down, you know, that kind of stuff. You see that crazy stuff. But I remember, as far as like a league-wide thing, when the minor league umpires went on strike, they started picking up like high school umpires and like some good college umpires, but there were some guys that were like, they were dusting off the umpiring equipment. And so it was just constantly like that feeling of like, oh, okay, well, we got 50 games with these guys. Oh boy. Jeez. But other than that, nothing like full like league-wide that I can remember from my playing days. I was never involved in any of the strikes or anything like that. So
describe what the situation is right now for you, and then we'll get back into what it was like when you found out and everything else. And a lot of these players are going through just uncertain times, right? Not only from a worldly perspective, but from, just a personal perspective. What's it like right now for you and your situation?
For me, it's really like the off season. So it's not crazy different, except for my kids are at home all the time. So my workout schedule is a little different. Normally I would take them to school and then I'd get my workout in and be done by lunchtime. And then my wife and I would have some time together, and then, there'd be things to do around the house. Now it's kind of flip-flopped. Like, we got to get school in, and then you got to make sure you get your workouts in. Like the other night, I went down and to our gym in the basement, and I had to work out from like 8 to 9:30, 10 o'clock. I think it was more like 9:30 that I finished because, they just, school, we had some stuff to catch up on, and the day just kind of kept going. So the kids watched the movie and I got my work in. So it's something that's, my days right now are a lot like the off season. And I'm fortunate that when we moved to this house, I decided not to join a gym, and I ended up buying equipment. So
nice.
This really doesn't affect me. So I just jumped right back into my off season workouts.
So it's early spring. So this isn't the off season, although it is. It's kind of weird the way we're in this, but the coronavirus outbreak is here. We're in the midst of it. We're taping this, like I said, early spring. Can you take us back to, I don't know, late February, early March? You're a member of the New York Yankees. You're in spring training. You're playing games. You're trying to make a team, and MLB presses pause on the season. Where were you, and what was that initial reaction like when you found out?
It kind of went in waves. You were hearing about it. You were hearing being diligent about it. Then you were hearing you got to really make sure you're taking care of this. Then I remember the security guard outside of the locker room, he got some hand sanitizer and he put it right next to the door where he went in. He let the media and stuff and everybody in, but there was somebody that, we'd see early in the morning when nobody's there, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not allowed to shake your hand anymore. It's policy. We're not allowed to shake hands." And that was a big thing. Like, we'd always shake hands. I always made sure my boys shook hands when they went into the locker room. And
sure.
And so it was just a thing, it was a thing. And then it was like, nope, not allowed. I got yelled at, not allowed to do that anymore. And so then it's like, whatever, you guys everyone's taking it too far. And then you start getting more information about it. And then they were like, everybody leave, everybody go home. And then the players were like, well, we got to stay ready whenever the season starts up. Where do we go if everything's going to be closed? So we stayed another day or two and kept working out. And then they were like, no, everybody has to be out. Like, you can't, more than 10 people can't be in here at one time. Then it was like, whoa, it really became serious.
For you guys as players, you have to basically press pause on everything that you've been gearing up and amping up for. But that doesn't just mean press pause on baseball. That means pressing pause on life and having to refigure out travel. You're shaking your head as I say this. It's got to be complete chaos and nuts on getting everything back to what it was prior to you leaving to go to Tampa.
It is so many layers of things that, for me, I have a hard time talking about it with people because of what else is going around the world. Like, one of my friends got laid off, and it was actually a good thing that he got laid off because he can apply for unemployment, but he got laid off. He's like, I'm 36 years old. I've never gotten laid off before. And it's something that, so for me to say, well, we had to get out of our apartment in Florida that we were paying for and drive 17 hours home without trying to stop at too many places with my family, and then get back into our house. I mean, we shut our house down for that time being because we're not going to be in it. And right. Then, you gotta, it's so much, there's so many things, so many logistics just to get that done. And, stay ready for playing at a peak level of a professional sport too. So,
and you've been through this, the ringer or whatever you want to call it, of trying to make a team now last year you were on how many different franchises? 4 last year?
Only 4. Yeah.
Well, only 4, but only 4 in one season. What was last year like? And I know we'll get back to kind of the coronavirus and kind of what's happening now, but what was last year like? Because when we last talked to you, you had just signed a 1-year deal. to play in 2019 with the Brewers, and everything's supposed to be perfect and hunky-dory, and you play the full season, and that didn't quite happen.
Nope. Nope. As my career goes, that didn't quite happen. But something that I got to experience playing for two more new organizations. Obviously, the other two were the Brewers in spring training, and then the Yankees at the end of the season in AAA. But it was something that it was a whirlwind. It was definitely a whirlwind. I think it taught Sarah and I a lot about how important it is to be close to each other, be able to see each other on a regular basis. Being apart, we never really were apart. The most we were ever apart was a 2-week span, and I would never played on the West Coast. I was never on a West Coast team. So something that it was really draining for us to deal with being out in San Francisco and the uncertainty of they had somebody in AAA that they were going to bring up. And it was one of those things that early in my career, I always saw guys that had guaranteed contracts, and they were like, wow, he has nothing to worry about. That is not at all how it was. It was like, I gotta still produce. This is kind of a fill-in role. Now I went to the Rays, which for me was a breath of fresh air because I was on the East Coast. Like being in the same time zone as my kids was huge. And for Sarah to be able to fly only 2 hours to see me was huge. So it gave me an incredible appreciation for guys that have played on the opposite coast of where they live for most of their career. And it was eye-opening for me. But it was something that we learned a lot from for, possibly my next phase of my working career. I'm not going to say playing career, but my working career, at the West Coast is far. It's far for us on a regular daily basis.
Yeah. Now, after the season concludes, and you and I saw each other, it was early December at a conference together down in Florida. Right before that, though, you were over in Japan, if I'm not mistaken, right? And you were a part of this really cool thing with Team USA, right?
That was, yes, this offseason. Yes. This offseason, I was over in, so technically, I guess that's a fifth organization that I've played for.
Yeah, right. That's true.
But yeah, we were in Guadalajara, Mexico, and Tokyo, Japan. So we were there it's basically gone just under a month. We're about 4 weeks, a little over 4 weeks. But it was awesome. We were trying to qualify for the Olympics, and we came up short. But man, it was one of those things that you try to come together as well as you can in a month span. And had we qualified, had we won the last game, which we were winning in the ninth inning by a run. Had we won it, you'd been like, oh, well, we came together. We did a great job. The team cohesiveness. It was such a great team cohesive group that we had. And it was something that was an experience of a lifetime. And every time I've played for Team USA, that's how it's been for me. So I didn't expect it to be any different, but it was a lot of fun.
We'll get back to our conversation with Erik Kratz in just a moment, but want to tell you about our friends over at IJM, the International Justice Mission based in Washington, D.C. And they believe, and of course we believe this too, that every person deserves to be safe and free from violence. And by partnering with local authorities to rescue victims of violence, bringing criminals to justice, restoring survivors, and strengthening justice systems, IJM is helping to protect more than 150 million people from violence worldwide. But they cannot do this alone. They need your help. And that's why I'm reaching out to you to consider joining them and becoming a Freedom Partner. They're some of IJM's most loyal partners in the work of justice, and their support, your support, of $24 or more each month help survivors of slavery and violence from the moment they are rescued until they are fully restored. It may not seem like a lot to give, but it's life-changing. So I'd encourage you to join us in being a Freedom Partner today. It really does make a huge difference. Visit ijm.org/TF, ijm.org/TF. Join the fight against violence and oppression and become a Freedom Partner today. Now back to our conversation with Erik Kratz, MLB catcher, joining us here on Sports Spectrum. Tell me about your faith in this whole ordeal the last few months and just maybe what the Lord's been showing you, staying, connected to the vine, as we like to say, and trusting in him through this process. I mean, I loved what you said the last time we had you on about trusting him throughout your whole journey, which you really have to, because there's so much uncertainty and you have no control in a lot of ways to what's happening other than saying, I'm not going to do this anymore. And God kept pulling you back and opening up doors. So what's he been showing you now, even just in the last month or so, since everything started to happen here with COVID-19?
You know what? I think drawing near to him in harder times like this, uncertainty, I don't get a paycheck, not being a big leaguer. I don't get a paycheck. So there's uncertainty financially. There's uncertainty of if we have this season or not coming up to play. So then it's like, okay, you went a whole year without playing. Do you play again next year?
Right.
Will somebody want you next year? What's the view of baseball towards an older player who hasn't played for a year? And it's really I've really had a ton of peace about it. And one of the things I've been trying to do is praise him through the storms and really try to be intentional about hopefully showing that to my kids too, and giving him the glory of good things that are going on and happening while we're in an uncertain time. And obviously you can't interact with a lot of people now. Social distancing inhibits interaction with people, but
yeah.
I would hope that people would see that my fearfulness is not taking over me in this situation. And I know 100% that that's from the Lord. And I know he has given me a sense of peace it transcends all understanding. And to try to explain it is impossible, other than I don't have fear of the situation. I'm fearful for people who are in this situation and are fearful of death and don't know the Lord, are fearful of, where their next paycheck, where their next meal is going to come from. Because that's real issues that people are going through. And I don't have those issues, but there's uncertainties, and I know that the Lord will take care of me in whatever those situations come up in the next, month, week, days, whatever it is. And constantly seeking him more and more through this time is still intentional.
How were you able to stay close to the Lord during spring training this year? And obviously we've talked about sort of living that baseball life as a believer in the past, but, specifically just in the few weeks that you were down in Tampa, I think you got in 9 games this year, and there was a few more that were played, and you played in 9 as far as I saw. What's the way you stay connected to the Lord as a team, with teammates, certain teammates, maybe not everybody, during that spring training time?
We have a good Bible study going. Obviously, baseball chapels on Sundays are huge. George McKibben is the Yankees big league chaplain, and he comes down to Tampa and he runs a Bible study every Tuesday night. So we did that, and that was great. We did so much this spring. I think we had four meetings this spring, so that was really good. But for me, my morning Bible study, my morning read through the Word is just it's paramount in my life. I mean, it just is what gets me to the point where I trust him, know him more, and I'm just really, really growing through that time. And this year I did a little bit something different. I had about a 20-minute drive to the field every day. So I would listen over the speakers of the car. I would listen to the passages that I wanted to read. And then I'd sit in the parking lot and in the facility, and I'd write in my journal. I'd write in my journal and just spend a little bit of time thinking about it. But it just spent that 20 minutes instead of me listening to K-Love Talk Morning Show. Nothing against K-Love, but I don't need to listen to talk radio in the morning.
Sure.
But it's something that it really put me in a spot where it was like, yeah, and it was different. It was unique. It wasn't me just sitting in a quiet place with just reading and just sitting there in my house. It was something that I used that 20 minutes, and I really, I got to hear a lot. It was something that as I got in the car in the morning and it was dark, I really looked forward to it. So it was something that was cool that I didn't do this year.
This may be an unfair question, but I'll ask you. I don't, if it's a yes or no, it's yes or no. But do you think there's going to be games this year?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I mean, I have been completely wrong on every step of every decision. Like when they were like, yeah, do you think they're going to shut down spring training games? And I'm like, nah, probably not. And then the NBA did. And I was like, maybe they're going to shut us down. And then they were like, what do you think, they'll send us home? No, there's no way. We got to stay ready. We could start it up soon. Everybody go home. All right. Well, there we go. So I was wrong on that one. It was
right.
I feel like there will be. I feel like because everybody wants to be creative, I think if I knew more about the financial situation of what it would be to play in front of no fans, I could give you a better answer.
Yeah.
Because I know that's a big, there's obviously TV deals. There's other streams of revenue that they can make, but it'll be a collaborative effort, but we have a long way to go before then. I mean,
it's true. Yeah.
A month from now is still the beginning of May. And I think any glimpse of hope for fans in sports, because I'm a sports fan. I don't just play. I'm a fan. But I think I would tune in right now if I got to see, 4 big leaguers just take BP for a little while. It's something that's, watch LeBron take jumpers. It's something that it would just add to your daily routine for sure.
Tell me if you think my idea is good. This is one I had. Do you ever watch Mystery Science Theater 3000 or any of the shows like that where they would watch a movie and they would comment about the movie? So my thought is...
where the guys in the front row?
Right. So my thought is stick, let's for baseball purposes, we stick Mike Trout and we stick, I don't know, pick a guy.
One minor leaguer.
Yeah, pick a minor leaguer.
An old guy with no hair.
And Erik Kratz. There you go. And you're just watching game 6 of something. Pick a game, right? From the past, from the present. And we just watch it for 2 hours and we replay the game, but there's commentary going at the same time from guys. You like my idea? Would you watch it?
Love it. Yeah. I'll do it. I've been doing it in my house. we turned on 2001 game 7, Diamondbacks Yankees.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there watching it, and my wife came in and she was like, "Is that Craig Counsell?" I was like, Yeah. And she's like, "Oh, wow."
Yeah.
I was like, "That's cool." I was like, she goes, "Did he ever win a World Series?" We're watching game 7 of the World Series. I'm like, if you don't know what happens? And all of a sudden, I'm like, you don't know what happens in this game?
Nice.
You want to sit and watch it? So we watched it, and it was cool. I'm like, oh man. And the next guy comes up or they just had the 2009 tiebreaker game, the game 163 with the Twins and the Tigers.
Yeah.
And I knew the game went to extra innings, and I knew Casilla got the game-winning hit because I played with him later on in his career, and I knew Gomez scored, but I didn't realize how back and forth it was, and it was just like I ended up watching almost the whole game. There
you go. So I like this idea a lot.
Great idea. I love your idea.
All right, we got to do it. By the way, that 2001 World Series might be the only blip on the Mariano Rivera resume, if there ever was one, was Game 7 in the 9th inning when he came in.
Yeah, they had some ridiculous stat. Like up until that point in the playoffs, he had only blown one save, and that was back in '97.
Yep.
He gave up a home run to Alomar, and when they were facing the Indians. And so it was like, but I think that was like one of his first years. He was a closer too. So it was like,
that's it.
Yeah. The only blip. And really they didn't hit very many balls hard off him, but it was so cool to see it, but also see it through my wife's eyes, who's like, I've never seen this game before.
Right. Exactly. That's pretty cool. Well, we'll have to put it out there. MLB rewatchables. Come on, guys. Somebody get on this.
Let's do it. If Erik, we only knew somebody that used to work at ESPN.
Yeah, let me check my Rolodex and see if I can find someone. Erik, this has been great, brother. I appreciate your time. All the best to you, man. And certainly, let's stay in touch, and hopefully we do have a season, because that's what we all want. But if not, just stay safe, and all the best to you, my friend.
Same to you. I appreciate it, Jason.
And many thanks to Erik Kratz, longtime Major League Baseball catcher, professional baseball catcher, for joining us here on Sports Spectrum. He has seen it all, up and down and in and out. He's been to the minors, to the majors. He is 40 years old, and he is now entering 18 years as a professional baseball player. And who knows what the future holds. Erik kind of alluded to it a little bit. Post-MLB career, post-baseball career, it would not shock me, and him and I have not talked about this, but it would not shock me if he was to go into coaching, because as a backup catcher, especially a veteran backup catcher, that is the perfect role to be a coach and groomed to be a coach. We've seen it with David Ross, who's now the coach of the Cubs and others. And Erik Kratz is one of the best dudes there is, one of the smartest guys, really intense guy, great people person. It wouldn't shock me if he chose that route, that he would be a coach someday in professional baseball. But we do appreciate Erik for sharing his faith and sharing his story of baseball during this crazy time that we're in right now here on Sports Spectrum. Again, thanks to IJM as well for sponsoring this show, the International Justice Mission. Check out ijm.org/TF to learn how you can join the fight against violence and oppression. And check out our website, sportsspectrum.com. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time right here on Sports Spectrum. Have a great rest of your day, and stay safe.